Hearty welcome, friends. The title of this session is Design of Selection Type Items and Prevalidation. Before I proceed, let me explain you the meaning of this title. There are three parts to it. The first part, what I like to explain you, is the selection type items. Items, normally we understand it as questions. Erstwhile name of items was questions. But as you know, the questions supposedly should be interrogative. But if you ask somebody to summarize something, to elucidate something, to explain something, now technically that is not a question, that is some instruction. So a more generic nomenclature has evolved in a huge body of knowledge called item response theory. In that the new name for, I should say more generic name of questions or instruction which normally appears in a question paper is item. And erstwhile answers have been named as responses, which means the candidates would actually respond to a particular item. So that's the response. And why it is selection type? Because for this particular type of items, people respond to it by selecting from the given choices or alternatives or options. We are calling it design of selection type items. It is so because there are some nuances of technicality in authoring, so we are calling it design. And the last part, which is very important, is called prevalidation. Now this prevalidation, as you understand, it is you are validating before it is getting deployed to any particular examination. That is what is called prevalidation. That means you pre-validate it before it is getting deployed to any particular exam. So friends, so I think you have understood now the essence of this particular title, design of selection type items and prevalidation. So during this presentation, which would last for next 45 minutes or so, we will discuss, we will understand different nuances of the designing and prevalidation activity with respect to selection type items. To the next slide. In this particular slide, I need to tell you what we do here in Meritrack. In Meritrack, we do assessment, which is pre-recruitment assessment for different corporates or different bodies. We operate in 6 different verticals to say. The first one, where we support many educational institutions in acquiring students or shortlisting or selecting students through entrance test or admission test, different premier, I should say, programs like management program, engineering program, medical program or law program. In the second vertical, we support IT companies in their recruitment process, and that happens in the campus, which means we go along with them in the different campuses and we help them in assessing people. And also the lateral, which happens primarily in their office premises. So there also we help them in assessing people in the first level for the recruitment process. Third vertical, we help many BFSI segment players like banks, financial services providers or insurance companies, again for pre-recruitment thing. And as you understand, here it would be primarily the cognitive abilities and banking. Unlike the IT companies where it was different IT domains, IT disciplines, different IT softwares maybe, along with the cognitive ability. On the fourth vertical, we support many public sector companies in the conduct of their pre-recruitment assessment. And as you understand, public sector companies primarily it's engineering driven companies. So it is not only cognitive ability, but almost all domains of engineering disciplines are serviced by us for these clients. On the fifth vertical, we support different government agencies, and this is really a very diversified portfolio. As you understand, government works for various areas, and it is as diversified as horticulture to physical education teacher to some researchers, maybe to the nurses in different hospitals. So such kind of diversified portfolio we service for different state governments and central agencies. And last but not the least, we also help central government and state government in the skill development of their aspirations under certain schemes, where it's primarily the skill assessment of people at maybe at ITI level or at the lower level. And so this is what we do. And just to put things in perspective, in the last year we have conducted examinations in 260 different domains. I'll move to the next slide. Terminology used. As you see on the top, measurement, evaluation and assessment. I come back to this point at the end of this slide. First, I like to draw your attention to the right hand side column, exam, question, supply type. Now this is a standard traditional part of examination, where questions are asked in the exams and students supply the answer. Exam analysis, yes, it happens in many institutes, but hardly ever it helps the main stakeholder, which is student. Question analysis very rarely happens. Question bank, actually it is not required. So this is what it is, the traditional form. At the end of the exam, these answers are measured and certain marks are given. So it's evaluated and marks are given. On the left hand side, you will find test, item, selection type. That means selection type items are used to test. Now what do you test? You test the abilities, which is written down below. As I mentioned some time ago, these abilities are in line with that Bloom taxonomy of 6 layers of abilities, which people acquire in the process of education. So these abilities we test using selection type items. And test analysis, that's very important. This test analysis is actually where different abilities we make some kind of evaluation. That is, somebody's knowledge level is 50%, understanding level maybe 40%, application level maybe 30%, or something like that. That would be very, very objective analysis, and it would be extremely useful to the candidate as well as to the employer, because employer would understand the candidate's traits, candidate's abilities of different things, and the person concerned would also realize that where they need to focus more to become strong or strengthen in which all areas, or which all areas they need to capitalize. They are already strong, they must capitalize on those. Then comes your item analysis. Now, as these are all selection type items, which essentially mean there would be various options, alternatives at the end of which people need to choose from. Now, all these responses would actually be captured, and then we would analyze whether all the options are getting selected by people. If there are some which are not selected by any majority of the people or very less number of people, or not even a single person, then we realize that particular option is not in a position to distract people, particularly the lower ability candidates who are supposed to be drifted towards the distractors. Item bank is extremely important in this particular model because it takes a lot of time to create selection type items. Essentially, so we must create item bank beforehand and make use of it at the time of event of test. So that is what it is, and now I come to the top row, that measurement, evaluation and assessment. Assessment would be a very comprehensive thing. Now, you just measure. Somebody is getting 34, 35, somebody getting 84, maybe we have measured their performance. Yes, it is evaluation could be a step ahead, where we'd say you are coming in the top bracket, somebody is coming in the second bracket, or somebody is the bottommost bracket. But the most important, that assessment, which would be a very comprehensive one on different counts. So in the same answer paper or same responses, from the same responses we can assess that somebody's performance in knowledge is this, somebody's performance in understanding, ability, analysis, synthesis and judgment ability. So that would be a very comprehensive assessment, which is the aim of our style of functioning. So that's what it is. I'll move to the next slide now. Structure of a multiple choice question. So as I presume most of you would know different parts of multiple choice questions, we'll start with that. STEM. STEM is the one where, that's the backbone of any multiple choice question. This is where your item, the problem statement, the main question is actually captured in this STEM. It would followed by a set of choices, alternatives and options, of which one would be the right key or the correct response, and the rest would be distractors, and these distractors need to come out of usual mistakes, misconception, misunderstanding of the students or the candidates. And so please make a note that distractors, that it's not a merely wrong answer, it's not merely a wrong response. It is a distractor, and these distractors need to come from usual mistakes, misconception, misunderstanding, so that candidates with lower ability, they would get trapped by these distractors. So that's the purpose. We'll take a very simple example here. Who is the first lady president of India? This is the STEM, and there are followed by 4 options: Indira Gandhi, Pratibha Patil, Sonia Gandhi, Sarojini Naidu. So Indira Gandhi is a distractor, Pratibha Patil is the right key, and Sonia Gandhi is a distractor, Sarojini Naidu is also a distractor. Now, we would know that you can't change the question, and of course we can't change the key, but these distractors are the one which we can maybe play with. So if we change these distractors, how the rigor or the difficulty level of this particular item would go down or go up. Instead of Indira Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi and Sarojini Naidu, if we make put some male names, maybe Jawaharlal Nehru, maybe Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, or maybe Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. In that case, it would be very, very obvious that Pratibha Patil is the answer. One need not even have to think much. Or we change this Indira Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, Sarojini Naidu with some non-Indian names, maybe Hillary Clinton or Condoleezza Rice or Christiana Rodriguez or Merkel or any other non-Indian name. Then also it would be very, very simple to find that right answer. So the takeaway from this particular slide is it is the selection of distractors on which the art of item design would depend to a large extent. So art of item design would depend to a large extent on the kind of distractors that we put in. I'll move to the next slide. This is construction of stem. First point, the stem must be a complete question by itself or an incomplete statement. So the first example, this is an example where it's a complete question. That stem is followed by 4 options. And the next example where stem is actually incomplete statement followed by 4 options. So the first point under construction of stem, the stem must be a complete question by itself or an incomplete statement. We'll come to the second point. This is very important point, I must say. The stem should be concise and unambiguous, avoiding double negatives. If single negative is unavoidable, it must be emphasized. Now, I tell you, the reason for the popularity of selection type items being used in different tests, of course, it has got a benefit of quicker turnaround of results, less logistics hassles, and a very objective evaluation. But in addition, there is another advantage to it, that is, it is less stressful to the candidates, because people don't have to remember and reproduce. If they have studied it well, they can easily find the answer or the key from the given other distractors. So keeping the same philosophy forward, it is very important that the keyword, if there are any, these keywords need to be highlighted, underlined, or maybe written in the caps, so that people don't miss it. We are alerting people that yes, this particular word is very important and you should not miss it. But they must find the answer. We don't enable them to find the answer, but we help them to understand the question better. So this example also, if you see, which of the following is not a major characteristics of programmed instructions? So here the keyword not is put in caps. I'll come to the next slide. Point number 3, the context of the question must be made clear and should avoid using textbook language. This is again very important point. The context, particularly when in a classroom where students and teacher would be there in the same page of the book, and if without elaborating the context, if teacher asks a question, or for that matter even student asks a question to the teacher, it would not be a great difficulty for either of them to realize that what is the context of that question. But in an examination hall, maybe there are 100 or more than that, so many number of questions are being put across. It is impossible for somebody to assume that what would be the context. So that is why it is very important that we mention the context for each and every item. Here we have given one example. In objective testing, the objective refers to. Now, if you read the 4 options, all the 4 are objective in nature, but the moment you say in objective testing, then there is only one which would be right here, and that is the beauty of elaborating or providing the context to each and every item. I suggest, see, whenever you are designing an item, you try to give the context to each and every item whatever you design. We'll come to the next slide. Point number 4, base each item on a single central problem. STEM should be meaningful by itself and should present a single and definite problem. This is very important slide. This poor example, a large deficit in the national budget is likely to result in inflation. Second option, occurs usually in times of prosperity. Third option, can be avoided by establishing the gold standard. And the fourth option indicates an unfavorable balance of trade. Now, if you look at very closely, you would notice that all the 4 options are diametrically opposite to each other. So, it's in 4 different directions it is running. The first one, it has got, each one of these has got a different problem embedded, it has got a different theme. First one, if you look at, then it is focusing on what it would result into. The second one, when does it occur? Third one, how can it be avoided? Fourth one, what does it indicate? So, these are the 4 different options having 4 different themes. This is not an example of a good item design. Each and every item should be very focused and it should have only one theme or central problem. If you want to test people on all the 4 themes, it's better we put them in 4 different items. We have taken the first one in the first option and we have come up with this improved example. A large deficit in the national budget is most likely to result in, then first option inflation, second option high interest rates, third option low profits, and the fourth one an unfavorable balance of trade. Moving on to the next slide, we have taken one more example and this time it is more generic, that's on sunstroke. If you closely notice, there are 5 options and these 5 options are actually a mix of either symptom of sunstroke or first aid treatment for a victim of sunstroke. We like to re-emphasize again that if you want to ask or test whether people are aware about symptom of sunstroke, it is better we focus on all the options relating to symptom of sunstroke only. If we want to test the first aid treatment for a victim of sunstroke, so that is how we should select, we should provide the 4 options relating to that only, or else it would be a mix and that would not really serve the purpose of testing a particular theme or any problem. We will come to the next slide, the point number 5. Anything that needs to be repeated in each option should be included in the STEM. Yes, if you look at this particular example, that poor example what we have given, when constructing, it's getting repeated 4 times in 4 different options. And it's not difficult to understand that this common phrase has got no bearing in finding the right answer, because that's common to all the 4. So, it's better if you can put that in the STEM itself, and that's what we have done in the improved example down below. So, we'll come to the next point, that is point number 6 under construction of stem. Avoid excessive window dressing. If you read this particular example, you would notice this question should be set like, what is the unit to measure angle? Now, instead of putting it so directly, there is a good bit of preamble have been put before that, and I think that is completely not warranted. It is not adding any value. This is a pure discard. So, this much of window dressing is completely unwarranted. So, my request to all participants that please desist from such kind of window dressing whenever you are getting into item design. We will move to the next slide. Now we have moved from construction of stem to construction of distractors and the key. As we discussed in the beginning that for a multiple choice question there is a stem and followed by distractors. So, the first point, the key option should be unarguably correct. I am sure all of you would agree that yes, key needs to be unarguably correct. But here I have one item which I am calling it poor item. At what temperature does water boil? Now, neither I have mentioned here whether it is degree, Fahrenheit or Kelvin, nor we have mentioned whether it is top of a mountain or at the sea level. So, that is very important in terms of context, in terms of clarity. Just imagine if this kind of item have been put in any particular test, then people would be quite confused and they would start assuming, and as you know, when you leave people to assume things, then different people would assume different things, and probably all of them would be right, and it would be extremely difficult to evaluate their knowledge or understanding in such kind of responses. So, in improved item here we have mentioned that centigrade, we have also mentioned that atmospheric pressure. I will move to the next slide. Point number 2, the distractors must be incorrect yet likely to be plausible to low achievers. Very important slide. I am sure you would get some kind of insight in this particular slide. All distractors should be attractive and plausible. The purpose of the distractors is to distract the uninformed candidates, that is lower ability candidates, away from the correct answer. So, in a properly constructed item, each distractor shall be selected by some students. An increase in homogeneity among the alternatives adds to the plausibility of distractors. It also increases the level of difficulty of the item. So, the poor item, the leader of the gods in Greek mythology is Apollo, Ares, Pluto, Zeus. Now, one may try to assume that Apollo is a satellite, Ares is a constellation, Pluto is a planet, so hence Zeus would be the answer. The options have been put in such a way that one can easily eliminate and arrive at the right answer. Hence, we have left the stem the way it was, and we have only changed the distractors, and now it is not so easy to eliminate and arrive at. It is expected that somebody needs to know the gods in Greek mythology in detail before they arrive at the right answer. So, this is very important slide. The takeaway from this slide is your distractors need to be homogeneous to the key. It is extremely important. The more homogeneous we can make, the better would be the quality of item. It is not only in terms of difficulty, but the real knowledge, real understanding, real abilities would get tested. I'll move to the next slide. Do not include responses that are all inclusive, all of the above, none of the above, or that have the same meaning unless their use is highly essential. First and foremost, I firmly believe that all of the above, none of the above are used primarily as fillers. So we must desist from that. Apart from that, even if you use all of the above, none of the above, Meritrack uses computer format or on-screen format to design or display the assessment or for the test. Now, in that, the platform would actually jumble all the options. So just imagine you have come to write exam or the test, and the first item, the first option is all of the above, or the second option is none of the above. Now that is something completely ridiculous. I am sure all of you would agree. So we must completely desist from all of the above, none of the above, or inclusive thing. This particular example, if you see, of course it has not used any all of the above or none of the above, but you would know that matching items and multiple choice items, these are all basically part of selection type items. So we must not, because if you know it is not a selection type items, then maybe it is matching items, multiple choice items are actually part of selection type items. So easily somebody can eliminate and arrive at that supply type items. So so we'll move to the next slide. Make the responses independent and mutually exclusive. A poor item, if you look at the options, less than 20% is also less than 40%, or more than 60% is also more than 40%. So hence we suggest we put these options like less than 20%, or between 21 and 40%, between 41 and 60%, and more than 60%. So this is what we propose to bring a change in the options, so that it becomes independent and it also becomes completely mutually exclusive. Place the blanks, choices at the end of the incomplete statement. This is also very important. It has been found in various psychological assessment of test design, that if you put the blank at the end of a sentence, then on an average people read the phrase or the stem only once before they attempt the answer. Now their answer could be right or wrong, that's a different question, but after reading it only once, they get complete clarity that what is being asked. But instead, if this blank is put in the beginning or in the middle of the sentence, then on an average people read 3 to 4 times before they attempt the answer. So I'll move to the next slide. Point number 6, the options should be parallel in content. Now this is again in line with that homogeneity. It should be as close as possible, as plausible as possible. So obtaining a dependable ranking of students is of major concern when using a general achievement test, behavioral descriptions, checklist, and questionnaires. Now as very clearly you can understand that option 2, 3, 4 are not really parallel to the first option. We have provided suggested some improvement of option 2, option 3, option 4, where now these would be, all the 4 would be parallel in content. Now we have come to the point number 7, vary the position of correct answer randomly. The correct answer should be placed at the different positions and also approximately an equal number of different questions but in random order. We have come across many people, those who blindly take a particular position. Let's say in a multiple choice question based test where A, B, C, D are four options or the four positions of options. Somebody blindly takes all 100 questions only B, or somebody takes all 100 questions only C. Now just imagine if our answers are actually forming part of that particular position largely, then somebody would unduly get more marks compared to the person, those who have got knowledge, just because we have positioned all our answers in only one position. Now this is something we must avoid. So the thumb rule is, if there are 4 options and you have been asked to design 100 items, you make sure that around 25 position A would be the answer, around 25 position B would be the answer, around 25 position C would be the answer, around 25 position D would be the answer. And even if somebody blindly takes and there are no negative marks, then probably somebody can get only 25% of the score of the total, but not more than that. So we'll move to the next slide. Now we are discussing about inadvertently we end up giving certain clues at some point of time. One observation is the relative length of the alternatives should be equal. Otherwise, it may provide a clue to the correct answer. I'll tell you why. As we all know, there would be only one right answer, and that right answer should be unarguably correct. So we put a lot of qualifiers in that particular answer. As a result, it becomes lengthier relatively to other options. And these other options, as we also know, are only the wrong answers. So we don't take so much of care to put qualifiers or something like that so that it becomes homogeneous and really parallel. No, we don't do that. So as a result, what happens, the relatively lengthier alternative most of the time end up being the key or the right key. Point number 2, singular plural mix-up. Now, which of the following are required to calculate a test standard error of measurement? Now here option 1 and option 4 would not gel with it. It's only option 2 and option 3, because we are asking which of the following are required. So option 1 and option 4 would not go with it, only option 2 and option 3, which means 4 options would get diluted to 2 options question. So we must be very careful about such kind of lapses. In the next slide, grammatical fitment giving a clue. The ability to synthesize can be best measured with an. The moment you say an, then it is only the first option which would go with it, not the rest. So the first option and essay question would go with it, not the rest, which means your 4 options have been reduced to only single option question. Fourth point, usage of words in stem and options providing a clue. This is again homogeneity and parallel in content. The word research is used only in the 4th option, so people may try to relate it that way. I'll come to pre-validation part. That's very interesting part now. So far we have discussed different nuances of designing, different do's and don'ts. Now we'll enter that another very important part called pre-validation. That pre-validation means you are validating an item on different counts, primarily on 3 counts, and before it's deployed even for once. Technical values to be added to each item. So 3 pillars are there for each and every item. So the first pillar is content, which is tangible, people can check and test whether it's fitting into a particular domain, subdomain, topic, subtopic or not. Then of course rigor or the difficulty level, which is some extent intangible. There could be a debate at point of time, but yes, that's also very important agreement we must come to before we deploy any particular item. And third is also very important, that is cluster, which is again a bit intangible, and here we need to indicate that which particular abilities we are testing using these items. So the first pillar, that is content, has 5 parts to it. The first, we must identify that which domain, subdomain it pertains to. Second, we must choose the appropriate structure for the item. If you have only 3 options, then and you want to fill it up with none of the above, all of the above, that's something not accepted at all. So we must appropriately fit a particular structure for each and every item. We must ensure the correct answer is there. The correctness of the item is extremely important, and that we must ensure as a part of this particular pillar. The fourth one, ensuring appropriateness of the item, which means key and distractors need to be homogeneous. The distractors are homogeneous to the key. We must ensure that. And of course, that fifth one is we need to ensure the relevance of the item, whether if you are not asking a master degree level item to a diploma level candidates, or diploma level items to a master level candidates. This is again extremely important thing which we must rely on, which we must focus on. So this is what the different parts of the first pillar, that is content. We'll come to the second pillar, that is difficulty level or the rigor, and we maintain 3 layers of difficulties. The first is easy, where we think if you presume that more than 60% of the candidates would be in a position to answer it correctly, then you must indicate that as easy. If you think 40 to 60% people would be in a position to answer it right, then probably you should mark it as average or moderate. And if you think less than 40% people are in a position to answer it correctly, then we should mark it as difficult. So this is the 3 layers of difficulty which we must indicate to each and every item. Moving on, we have come to the third pillar, that is cluster classification, and as you see here, there are 6 clusters: A1, A2, A3, A4, A5 and A6. Now we will tell you how these are actually different from each other. As I have explained some time ago, as per Bloom taxonomy, there are 6 layers of abilities which people are supposed to acquire during the process of education: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis and evaluation. Now, if your item is testing only the knowledge or the memory recall, we will call that cluster A1. If an item which is testing knowledge and also the comprehension level, then we will put that particular item under cluster A2. If an item is there which has got knowledge, comprehension as well as application, we will call that as A3. A4 will have knowledge, comprehension, application as well as analysis. A5 will also have synthesis in addition to whatever you had on A4, and all the 6 abilities would be tested somehow or other whenever a particular item comes under A6. So these are the 6 clusters, and now we will see with proper illustration and examples of these 6 clusters. I will take you to the first example, which country's capital is Amman. Now, this is something completely derived of memory recall. One cannot comprehend this, you cannot apply and then arrive at, you cannot analyze and arrive at, you cannot judge, you cannot synthesize. So, hence as it is a pure memory recall, that means it has got only knowledge is component being tested here. So, this particular item would fall under A1 cluster. I will come to the next slide, where knowledge and comprehensions are part. I will take you to the second example here. Which of the options correctly completes the relation? Gardener is related to trowel in the same way as seamstress is related to saw, scissors, sneakers and crowbar. Now, it is not only knowing what gardener is or what trowel is, what seamstress is. One must understand the relationship between gardener and trowel, and then how the similar relationship is there between seamstress or saw, or seamstress and scissors, seamstress and sneakers, or seamstress and crowbar. So, it is not only knowledge or memory recall, it also expects one to have proper understanding or proper comprehension of the subject before they arrive at the right answer. So, such kind of items will form part of cluster A2. Then comes cluster A3, in which there would be knowledge, there would be comprehension, and there would be application. Now, all of us have got some knowledge or other for different theories, and we also understand, we have our understanding of those theories, comprehensions, where it can be applied, such kind of thing. And you also need to apply those theories in a real life data, real life situation, so that you can arrive at the result, arrive at the outcome. So, whenever you come across such kind of item, this would form part of A3, because it has got a knowledge, it has got comprehension, and it also has got application to be tested using these items. Next, we will come to A4, cluster A4, in which knowledge, comprehension, application and analysis are part. If you see this example what we have given, there are 3 figures and we need to identify the 4th figure here. So, implicitly we will take that figure A, we will try to fit that as a 4th figure, we will replace that with B, then we will check with C, and then similarly we will do the same thing with D. And then we would try to laterally think, which is nothing but analyze that which one is fitting here the best. So, if A fits here the best, A would be the answer. If B fits the best, then B would be the answer. If C fits the best, then of course C would be the answer, and similarly D. So, which means that there is analysis component in this particular item. So, which will take this particular item to cluster A4. Now comes cluster A5, which will have knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis and synthesis. Synthesis is something getting new knowledge, new theory, new information, and then you are applying that to your body of knowledge, and then you are synthesizing. So, that is what is your synthesis. See this example. If maple is coded as VOKZN, then how will camel be coded? Now, a maple coded as VOKZ then was not known to us before. So, first we have to decode that, and then we need to apply the same thing to camel. Now, this is a perfect example of synthesis, and hence such kind of items would form part of cluster A5. We will come to the next slide. Here we have one example of cluster A6, where we will evaluate. Now, if you go through this example, you will find that there are certain criteria to choose a candidate for a software company. The first criterion, the candidate must score the cutoff marks of 55 in the written test. Criterion 2, the candidate must have passed the engineering with an aggregate of 75%. Third criterion, the candidate should have an experience of at least 3 years and not more than 5 years. And there are 2 caveats. In case the candidate satisfies all the criteria except 2, he/she is referred to the HR. Second, in case the candidate satisfies all the criteria except 3, then he/she is referred to project manager. And based on these information, we must evaluate. There is a person called Piyush who has come with all these credentials, and then we must evaluate whether he gets the offer letter, whether he is referred to the HR, whether he is referred to the project manager, or whether he is rejected. So, such kind of items would form part of cluster A6. If you have any questions, you can always write back to us. We will get in touch with you, and of course, we will explain. So, these are the 8 pointers which we must provide for each and every item. So, the first is the topic. We must select that which topic, which domain, subdomain, this particular item is designed from. Second, of course, the most important, that question, that stem and the options and things like that. And then we must indicate that which particular position is the right key, whether it is A, whether it is B, C, D, or things like that. Then of course, rigor or the difficulty level. We must indicate whether for a given set of people, whether it is easy or moderate or difficult. We also need to indicate the cluster, whether it is cluster A1, cluster A2, A3, and like that. We must indicate question type. Of course, so far whatever we have discussed only multiple choice question, but I must mention over here that there are several other types of items under selection type items itself. There are several other types. Maybe that we will discuss sometime later. Then 2 more information would be extremely important. One is reference and explanation. A reference would be very important for to understand that which particular level you have captured this item for. And the last one is explanation or the justification. As you know that we are into pre-recruitment assessment, and many a time candidates would go, if they are not selected in a job recruitment, then they may go to court or they may raise some RTI. Then it's we are bound to provide explanation in favor of our answer key, and so that's why that's what is very important for this particular point. But apart from that, it's also important because the moment you write the justification for the right answer and why others are wrong, the remote chances of 2 being the right or more than 1 being right, that would be completely ruled out by yourself. So, I am done with my presentation. Thank you so much, and in case I must re-emphasize again, if you have any doubt, then you can write back to us. We would be more than happy to respond to your query and clarify your doubt. Thank you so much.